If you're watching this channel, it's because you don't enjoy watching the world squander what Christendom built, and you want to do your part. Today I'd like to mention one means of doing just that. Email made by and for Catholics. Check out Fidei Email. That's FIDEI.email. Built for Catholic individuals, families, organizations, and groups. They're private, secure, and of course Catholic. God bless.
In the last couple of days, story of an alleged Eucharistic miracle in Italy. Whenever these stories come up, I tell people to proceed with caution. You should always proceed with caution when it comes to an alleged miracle that is being investigated by the church. And this alleged Eucharistic miracle is particularly interesting, not because of any specific details about the miracle itself, but because of the backlash it's generated. It appears that the bishop overseeing the investigation is now being accused of essentially insulting religion and mishandling the investigation for this. Whenever there's a Eucharistic miracle alleged to have happened, the bishop has the solemn duty to follow the church's guidelines, which I'll go over here in a moment, on how to investigate it, to make sure things are handled extremely properly, and to make sure, above everything else, that things that are not miraculous are labeled as miraculous by the church. What's interesting is this is happening in the shadow of the new Marian apparition guidelines, where the Vatican will not say that any apparition is of supernatural origin and will not confirm miracles related to it, which kind of implies they're going to do the same thing to miracles in general. Let's hope they never get the chance to do that. We go today to a website called ravennatoday.it. It's an Italian news site for this headline. Ostia turns into blood, complaint filed with the public prosecutor's office on the alleged miracle of Savarna. Following the alleged miracle, the remains of the host were destroyed. Hence the complaint filed by a group of believers who hypothesized the crime of vilification. Now, I'm not exactly happy with the Google Chrome translation of this article. It definitely leaves something to be desired. So I ran this through the AI program on X called Grok. And here's a personal correction. A few days ago, I used Grok to translate something, and I said it was a free service on X. It's not. It's actually part of when you pay for the lowest tier of verification on X. You get access to Grok. And Grok is a very good translator, much better than Google Chrome's extension. So just correcting the record on that. And thanks to whoever it was who emailed me or put it in the comments that that's not free, to bring that to my attention, because I was wrong on that. Anyway, let's go to the article for clarification via Grok, because this is an important story. We need to get this right. And you begin to see the accusation is that potentially this alleged miracle was actually the Eucharist, the body, blood, soul, and divinity of our Lord, was destroyed improperly by either the bishop or through with his permission. So here it is from Grok. Quote, a complaint has been filed to clarify the alleged miracle of Savarna, an affair that created a stir throughout the Ravenna area. It all started on January 28th, 2023, when the sacristan of the Church of Santa Maria Assunta de Savarna, Manuela Sergurini, found a consecrated host on the floor. The host was subsequently immersed in water as per liturgical practice to manage damaged particles. The following morning, the particle took on a reddish color similar to blood, a phenomenon that prompted the parish priest Don Nicolo Giosu to undertake a series of scientific tests. At that point, the analyses conducted by Dr. Cristina Antonini, an anatomical pathologist, would have revealed the presence of blood biological material in conservation conditions considered exceptional. However, meaning they found blood and other things that should not be on a host left on a floor. Signs of a miracle. However, further investigations entrusted to the Also Romagna would have excluded the presence of human blood. This is where the complaint filed by the lawyer Francesco Minotillo of Forli on behalf of a group of believers starts, regarding the management of the alleged Eucharistic miracle. According to what has been reported in the complaint, in fact, the outcome of this analysis would have been communicated via, quote, an informal message via WhatsApp, while the samples would have been destroyed, end quote. Communication via WhatsApp is not exactly part of the canonical process for investigating a Eucharistic miracle, nor is destruction of this. Now, in fact, let's go over what the church says about actually how to handle such investigations. So this is from an article from Matters India, which is kind of from India. It's a generically religious news site. They have an article that summarizes this rather nicely. They say, quote, the Catholic Church investigates alleged Eucharistic miracles through a rigorous and standardized process involving forensic pathologists, theological, and scientific experts. These are the words of a Salesian priest, by the way. The Church does not accept every alleged Eucharistic miracle, says the priest. After careful investigation, if a supposed miracle turns out to be no miracle at all, this is considered a service to the truth, he asserts. Stating the record straight, he adds, however, the Church recognizes that throughout history there are miracles that are so well authenticated that their truth cannot be denied. For a phenomenon to be recognized as Eucharistic miracle, the Church requires, quote, certain evidence for the fact of the miracle, based on the knowledge and truthfulness of the witnesses who testify to its occurrence. The miraculous character of the event must be such that natural forces alone could not have produced it, and the only rational explanation is intervention of divine agency. The preconditions for the scientific investigation of the alleged miracle include the following. First, there has to be absolute certainty of the chain of custody, meaning there's certification that the Eucharistic host has always been guarded. This also means it has to be handled properly, and I think this is where the controversy on this comes from. Second, the bishop must state that something highly unusual has happened. Third, the bishop must convene a scientific panel with a principal scientist, credible experts, and tests. Fourth, the scientific tests must all be in agreement, end quote. I actually think that with these standards, there may have been legitimate Eucharistic miracles that were dubbed to not be miracles because the standards are high. So keep that in mind as we go back to this article, because clearly something went seriously wrong here. Quote, the complaint therefore raises the hypothesis that such actions could constitute the crime of vilification or damage to objects intended for worship. The document highlights, quote, some possible irregularities related to the management of the case of the alleged Eucharistic miracle of Savarna by Archbishop Lorenzo Gazzoni, declared the lawyer Munatillo. If the destruction or dispersion of a consecrated host and the related biological samples were confirmed, it would be a serious episode, potentially configurable as vilification against an object of worship central to Catholic doctrine. Also, the destruction of a consecrated host by laity or secularists, that's a problem too, by the way. Further aspects worthy of further investigation, added the lawyer, are linked to the management of the samples by also Romagna in the person of Professor Vittorio Sambri. If the destruction of the findings had actually occurred without adequate documentation or supervision, this could indicate a violation of the transparency and traceability protocols that are expected in a case of such relevance. And another aspect to be clarified is whether the use of a simple WhatsApp message to communicate the outcome of the analysis and the subsequent destruction of the samples can be considered compliant with institutional procedures. They're not. The hypothetical lack of an official communication or formal report has made us raise many doubts about the correctness of the process. Finally, it is crucial to ascertain the circumstances of the confidentiality agreement between the diocese and the ASL, which could have limited transparency on a matter that concerns not only the faithful but the entire public opinion, given that the analyses were carried out by a public body. We will not stop until it is clarified what happened to the Eucharistic biological samples. We have asked that all possible residues still available be seized immediately. Continues the lawyer, strictly speaking, these would be objects of worship, central symbols of the Catholic faith, that as such must be treated with respect and certainly not as material to be disposed of without transparency and respect. The battle is not only a question of justice for the faithful, but concerns the right to truth and respect for the faith of millions of people. We will not tolerate any negligence or attempt to minimize a case of this importance, as has happened to date. Concluded the lawyer, we ask that the judiciary intervene decisively to reestablish clarity, truth, and justice. End quote. Meaning the lawyer is asking for the secular authorities to get involved in all of this as an insult to religion itself, which is a crime in a lot of places in Europe because all these different, very hostile religions coexisting in one space. So pray for that bishop during all of this. All right, folks. Thanks very much for tuning in today. As always, pray for the church. I'm Anthony Stine. Ave Maria.